Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Though Philly's transit system is not as large as some other cities, it has a fascinating amount of variety. The Market-Frankford line, for example, is almost completely elevated, except for in Center City where it briefly runs underground. The Broad Street line, on the other hand, is almost exclusively underground. And then there's multiple different light rail systems, from trolleys to former interurbans. Today I am focusing on the Broad Street line. I have made a video about this line before, but in that video I just rode a regular local service on the main line. Today I want to focus on what I think are the two most interesting features of the Broad Street line: express service and a branch line. Our journey begins at the Fern Rock Transportation Center. This station is served by several SEPTA regional rail lines, click on the link above for a video on that, but it is also the northern terminus of the Broad Street line. In fact, it's the only above-ground station on the entire line, having opened in 1956 as part of a service extension. Next to the platform, you'll find the yard for the Broad Street line, and the yard does predate the station. I'd love to stick around and show you more, but our train was already here and we had a pretty tight schedule. A single ride on the subway will cost between $2 and $2.50 depending on what type of ticket you use. The number of transfers that you get also depends on the type of ticket. However, today I am traveling on the One Day Anywhere Flex Pass, which costs $13, but it let me take 10 trips on any SEPTA mode, including regional rail. Here's our train now, a local service bound for the southern terminus of NRG. This is a B4 car built in 1982 by Japanese company Kawasaki. Though these cars are very old, they perform quite well, and as far as I know, there are no plans to order a replacement yet. In fact, the cars on the Market-Frankford line, which are newer than these, are going to be replaced first.
Doors are closing. Southbound local. This train making all stops. Next stop, Alney Transportation Center, a wheelchair accessible station for routes L, 6, 8, 18, 22, 26, 55, 80, Albert Einstein Medical Center, and LaSalle University.
After we leave Fern Rock, we soon dive underground. We remain in a tunnel for the remainder of our journey. Notice that this is a quadruple tracked line. I know I said in the introduction of the video that we are going to take an express train, but to do that, we need to travel down one stop to Alney Transportation Center first. So let's talk about the Broad Street line. It is a 12.5 mile or 20 kilometer long line, almost a straight shot underneath Broad Street from Fern Rock to NRG. Trains don't run at night, but there is a dedicated bus service running overnight in place of the train. Though the line is operated by SEPTA, the city of Philadelphia owns the tunnels. The original section between Alney and City Hall opened in 1928. Further extensions extended the line south to Walnut Locust, Lombard South, and Snyder Avenue by 1938. The station at Fern Rock opened in 1956, and a final extension south to the station that is currently called NRG opened in 1973. There's also a branch line to 8th Street known as the Broad-Ridge Spur, and that's the line that we want to ride today. So from Fern Rock, I took a local train that's just running on the main line. I took it one stop down to Alney Transportation Center because during the midday, the Ridge, like the branch line trains, they terminate here. By the way, today I am joined by Rose.
Hi.
Being my tour guide for today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I'll link YouTube in the description. Unfortunately, it wasn't entirely clear when our Broad-Ridge Spur train would show up. Another mainline local train came first, but after about 10 minutes, our Spur train showed up. On the other side. It then turned around in the tunnel, and when it arrived on our platform, we could finally board it. Well, we did have to run a little bit. Oh yeah, fun fact, trains on the Spur are only 2 cars. So now we are on a train that will eventually run on the Broad-Ridge Spur, but first we have the northern half of the main line to complete, and we do this as an express train. Express service on the Broad Street line was always intended. The original section that opened in 1928 was built with enough space for 4 tracks. The express trains weren't all immediately there. The line wasn't fully quadruple tracked from Fern Rock to Walnut Locust until 1991. But today, all stations' local services are indicated as B1 services. Express trains are indicated as B2 services. These run between Fern Rock and Walnut Locust between 5:30 and 9:30 in the morning, and from 2 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. They only stop at Olney, Erie, Girard, Spring Garden, Racevine, and City Hall, using the inner 2 tracks. The reason that they do not run south of Walnut Locust is because that part of the line was only built with 2 tracks instead of 4. Now what I find really interesting is that the services that run onto the Broad-Ridge Spur are always express trains too. These B3 services also use the inner express tracks, but they do make some additional stops that the B2 express trains skip. B3 trains stop at North Philadelphia and Fairmount in addition to the other express stops. Additionally, the very first southbound train, which departs Fern Rock at 4:40 in the morning, runs non-stop to City Hall and then runs as a local train to NRG. And for special events, SEPTA will run special express trains that skip all stations south of Walnut Locust. These Kawasaki cars have these very interesting destination signs posted on the front of the train and in the side windows. Light bulbs inside these panels illuminate different squares of the grid, which then show information such as the train's origin, its destination, and whether it's an express train or not. Now, express service on metro systems isn't unique to Philly, but I would argue that it is very uncommon worldwide. To maintain high frequencies, it really is only effective on lines where there are opportunities for express trains to pass slower trains. The most famous example in the US, of course, is the New York subway, which has many express services. The CTA in Chicago also runs a Purple Line Express. Around the world, other notable metro systems with express service include Tokyo, Japan, or Porto in Portugal. The London Underground also has a few sections where some trains skip stops that other trains do stop at. Now, let's talk about the Broad-Ridge Spur. Having a branch line on a metro line is still relatively uncommon, though not nearly as uncommon as express service. Other examples include the CTA Green Line in Chicago, which has 2 branches on its southern end. In Tokyo, the Marunouchi Line and the Chiyoda Line both have short branches, which in recent years have become better integrated with mainline services. And of course, once again, the London Underground has many branches. As for Rotterdam in the Netherlands, I know they say there are 5 lines, but in reality, it's just 2 lines with several branches. In fact, that's why branch lines on subways feel so uncommon, because many times agencies will just give each branch its own designation, as if it was a whole separate line. Think of the New York subway, the Washington Metro, or Copenhagen. Operationally, they act much like trunk lines with multiple branches, but on the map, they get labeled as their own thing, which I think is generally a good thing because it makes it clear where the train is going. That's why I like going to LA. We arrive at Fairmount Station, a stop that the regular B2 Express skips, but that our B3 Express does stop at. Before entering the station, we've split off from the main line. The spur platforms are located underneath the mainline platforms, and the only way to get there is to take a staircase from the northbound platform of the main subway. To transfer from the spur to a southbound train, you need to transfer at Girard. Half of the platform here at Fairmount has been abandoned, so trains longer than our 2-car train are not able to run on this branch. It leads us to the question, how did this branch line come to exist? Why does it exist? Well, to answer that, we have to go way back to the 1910s, when the city was considering building an underground loop line in downtown Philly. This would let Broad Street line trains loop underneath 8th, Locust, Arch, and Broad Streets. Well, part of the tunnels were dug underneath 8th and Locust Streets, but the rest of the project was abandoned. So in 1932, a new tunnel opened underneath Ridge Avenue to connect with the already existing tunnel. Broad Street line trains started using this new spur as far as 8th Street, while in 1936, the tunnel also began being used by the Bridge Line. The Bridge Line was an interurban railway line to New Jersey, using the tracks that today we call the Patco Speed Line. The Broad Street Line and the Bridge Line shared a station at 8th Street. From 1949, the two services even started a through service, with trains from Camden, New Jersey traveling up to Girard. But that ended when Bridge Line service traveled the rest of the way into the tunnels to 15th, 16th, and Locust Station. In 1968, the Broad Street Line received a brand new platform at 8th Street on a different level from the Bridge Line. Today, they are run by different operators, and you need completely different tickets to ride the two. We are now passing through the abandoned Spring Garden Station. Though it opened along with the rest of the spur in 1932, by 1989 it had fallen into such disuse that it was closed. After a stop at Chinatown Station, we reach our last stop, 8th and Market. Here you can transfer to the Market Frankford line or the Patco Speed Line.
The thing is that they don't have any plans right now. They're focused on this, yes. That'll be very
This is that upper level platform that opened in 1968. The operator walks the length of the 2-car train to the other end, and then the train is ready to head back north to Olney Transportation Center.
84 left. 4 line.
Alright, we just rode the entire Broad-Ridge Spur. That was a really quick turnaround. I feel like that was faster than a DC Metro train stops at a station.
Yeah, it's usually a lot longer. They'll say here for like 20 minutes.
Do you have any idea about like ridership, like how it compares to the main trunk section?
Let's just say it's so low that SEPTA has considered cutting the service. Although they probably wouldn't be able to do that.
So that was the Broad Street Subway and the Broad-Ridge Spur. Many Metro lines have unique or interesting features, but the Broad Street line just has so many all at once. Old trains that are still kicking it, quadruple tracks and express service, a branch line, abandoned stations, loads of history. Thank you so much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. There's more content like this coming, and you won't want to miss it. We'll see you next time.